You know, I don't feel that individuals actually completely comprehend that when it happens to a lady, she depicts it like a passing. At the point when you contemplate Viola Davis, a portion of the things that will enter your thoughts are presumably a dark, effective, rich lady with a bigger number of grants than you might in fact count added to her repertoire. Indeed, Viola is effective and rich and quite an entertainer. However, would you say you are truly mindful of what it took for her to get to where she is today? Allow me to enlighten you regarding the time and the day that I kicked the bucket. Neediness, segregation, the disgrace, medical problems. A dad who dealt with her mother like a punching pack, a sibling who exploited her and her sister. I want to believe that you have your container of tissues close by, on the grounds that this will be one amazing, profound thrill ride when you're set forth on the planet. When you're conceived, who lets you know what your identity is? Who lets you know how you should live? Who lets you know how you should feel? Satisfaction and get yourself and discover a sense of reconciliation and track down all of that. On the off chance that there's nothing similar to that around, who characterizes it? All things considered, taking everything into account, when you are placed in reality as we know it where no one is there for you, the things that characterize you are your recollections and your encounters. Also, sadly for Viola, the recollections and encounters that characterized her were the most awful you might at any point consider. In her journal, Finding Me is where Viola spills the tea of what she needed to go through growing up. Be that as it may, she has likewise focused on the stunning circumstances in a few meetings throughout the long term. Viola, first of all, was conceived the fifth of 6 kids in Holy Person, Matthews, South Carolina, in her grandparents' house where her granddad was a tenant farmer on a ranch. From how Viola depicted where she resided, there were 160 or so sections of land of manor and a white, lovely estate home. What's more, in the event that you drove somewhat further, there was a minuscule one-room church, and a significantly further endeavor would convey you to the doorsteps of the tenant farmers' houses, latrines and open-air showers and a well. In any case, here's the thing about the family. Viola's family resided in the least fortunate circumstances you might at any point consider, including a one-room home with rodent pervasions and without utilities like gas, water, or power. She really conceded that she realized she was incredibly poor while growing up, portraying a house with the mortar falling off the walls and continuously being ravenous. Their day-to-day environments were terrible to the point that one day she and her sister Dolores were called to the school office because of their smell. Something Viola said she didn't have any idea what to do about. The main thing I knew how to do was to simply remain there and, what's more, be terrified and to go to class with that injury, to go to class being ravenous, to go to class smelling. It just deteriorated from that point. Since the other thing Viola needed to manage was experiencing childhood locally where she was oppressed and loathed for being dark, including having rocks in a real sense tossed at her by neighborhood young men. What's more, I felt totally secluded in light of the fact that I was experiencing childhood in an overwhelmingly white local area that I felt let me out. Furthermore, if living in those horrendous circumstances and being victimized for being dark wasn't sufficiently hard, Viola additionally saw her dad, Dan, consistently mess up her mom, May Alice, during their 48 years of marriage. I had a memory when I was 9 years of age and I recall my folks battling around midnight. Furthermore, she likewise encountered a portion of a similar treatment from her dad before he left the family when she was in the subsequent grade. Also, prepare to be blown away. Other than taking out his disappointments and fury on their mom, Viola's father had different illicit relationships that he had no efforts to stow away. Furthermore, Viola strikingly met one of his courtesans, who she portrayed as a huge lady named Patricia. However, prior to passing on from pancreatic disease in 2006, Viola said that something changed inside her dad. Furthermore, due to what her folks went through, Viola said she understood that pardoning isn't pretty in life isn't a Thursday night setup on ABC. It is truth be told hella untidy. Eventually, Viola decided to see her dad not as a miscreant, but rather as a human defective and flawed, yet in addition willing and cherishing. What's more, she decided to embrace everything with compassion. Truly, you would feel that life had done what's necessary, however no, it recently kept tossing lemons as Viola's own sibling additionally exploited her and her sister. So once upon a time, there were no names for individuals who exploited others and there were no names for the casualties too. It just seemed to be a lot of irregular elderly people men on the road who involved youngsters' affection for procuring a speedy quarter to elderly people men, exploiting unaided children let be during a party. Her own sister was one individual who tragically turned out to be simply one more measurement. I have a sister who, when she was 8 years of age, put on some roller skates with her companion, went down to the corner store at 1:00 in the early evening, went into the store and was it in the store. Tragically, in the occasions that followed, Viola's crushed moms made speedy moves to have the aggressor captured. In any case, that was a long way from the finish of her sister's experiencing on the grounds that there, an extremely smart, exceptionally imaginative kid grew up to be delicate, furious, and a medication junkie when she was 20. Furthermore, guess what? Viola herself likewise needed to get through such awful things. As a matter of fact, in her book, Viola described being abandoned with her more established 3 sisters, Dolores, Anita, and Diane, and their sibling in the family's condo, where sexual interest would go too far. Their sibling would pursue them and they would lose. Furthermore, in the end other improper conduct happened that significantly affected her. The other thing is that Viola had medical problems and she was simply ready to manage the cost of modest centers that could barely deal with the thorough consideration that she really wanted for her fibroids, iron deficiency, and alopecia. She said that her fibroids were terrible to such an extent that she looked a half-year pregnant and she was so weak from consistent draining that she would nod off standing up in the tram. I know it's a ton to envision that one individual would encounter such a great amount in their life. What's more, sooner or later, Viola even gave God a final proposal. I set up my hands and said, God, assuming you exist, assuming that you love me, you'll remove me from this life. Presently I will build up to 10. What's more, when I open my eyes, I need to be gone. Indeed, she's clearly still here. However, growing up, Viola didn't have the foggiest idea why she was going through all the difficulty, yet what she knew was that she felt such a lot of disgrace. Disgrace for every last bit of it. Disgrace for the destitution. Disgrace for being a bedwetter. Disgrace for not being awesome. Disgrace for not being, those little characters you read in the book Once Upon a Time. Learn to expect the unexpected. Indeed, even after that exceptionally unnerving childhood, Viola actually had another beast sitting tight for her when her vocation fired getting Hollywood. In spite of previously being a designed and acclaimed entertainer, she was continually losing jobs in light of the shade of her skin. Pretty much every